Good morning. Today I'm going to talk to you about Google Suite. I'm going to walk you through some of my favorite Google tools. So when you open up your page, you're on Google, you're up here at the Waffle. This Waffle is where you can find all of your Google apps. So as you click on it, you can see them listed here. Now, my school has purchased Google Suite for Education, so we have quite a few different applications that you can play with, and of course down below you can also see some of the ones that I have added on from the Google Suite Marketplace. But looking back up here at the top, the ones that you're probably most familiar with are Drive and Docs. I won't spend a lot of time on Drive because most people are familiar with at least this function of Google. Drive comes with your Gmail account, and so when you set up your Google account, regardless of Google Education Suite purposes, you're probably familiar with how to use Drive. I'm going to show you mine briefly though. When you go into Drive, you can store all of your files and keep them organized. There are a lot of different options with Drive in terms of how you keep yourself organized and how you personalize it. So as you can see here, I've color-coded my folders. I've also done them numerically by importance because having them organized alphabetically wasn't necessarily helping me find what I wanted when I wanted it. So Google Drive is a way I keep all of my folders, all of my files organized. And I also want to note that if you have a G Suite for Education account, you have unlimited storage effectively in your Google Drive. So this is where I put a lot of my, I'll be honest, a lot of my kind of heavier, bigger documents and files. So things I don't necessarily want to store on my computer, but I want access to. This includes pictures, for example, or videos of myself teaching. All of that can be seamlessly stored here in this drive. Going back up here to Google Classroom. Google Classroom as teachers is one of the platforms that is almost invaluable to how we approach education these days, particularly with the recent pandemic. And with Google Classroom, there are a million different tips and tricks for keeping yourself organized and involved. I won't talk too much about that today simply because that really demands a whole video of its own, and you can honestly spend hours diving into the opportunities that Google Classroom offers you. Google Docs is very much like Word, so if you are comfortable with the kind of the Microsoft suite, so looking at Word, PowerPoint, Excel spreadsheets, there is a Google equivalent for each of these. So Docs is Word, Sheets would be your Excel spreadsheets, and Slides in lieu of PowerPoints. Each of these functions almost exactly like the other platform that you might be used to using. However, it not only will sync with all of your kind of Google accounts, but these items are also really handy because you can collaborate with others while working on them. So if you choose to, obviously these items can stay personal, but you can also share them with others. Some really cool things you can do in Slides that I've really come to enjoy for collaboration include creating your own personal planner. I'll take just a second to show you mine. So looking at my personal planner here, I've done this in Slides, and I suppose you could do this in PowerPoint as well, but by doing this in Slides and uploading it to my Google Drive, I can share this personal planner with colleagues so that we can plan together. I'm also able to embed links into the slides that will link me to different pages, like November, for example. I can click on that, takes me to slide 19, and then here we have all of my November content ready to go. I'm able to link ideas and documents into each of these boxes by typing and then linking documents into them. So if I share this with a colleague, that colleague can then click on the link, it takes them to the document, and we're able to more effectively collaborate together. That's one of my favorite tricks with slides, but it is by no means one of the only things that you can do with slides. So clicking away from that for just a moment and away from Classroom, let's go back up here to the Waffle. I've already mentioned that Slides is PowerPoint, Sheets is Excel, and Docs is effectively your Word. I'm going to do a whole separate thing on Slides. I think Slides is one of the tools that has the most potential for virtual learning, and it's also one of the ones that can be the most confusing for people. So I'm going to do a whole separate lesson on this. Google Calendar is a way of keeping yourself organized. It has some incredible tools. you're able to, in Google Calendar, create events for yourself. You can have plenty of different calendars. Your classes in Google Classroom can each have their own calendar if you choose to link them in here. You can also include other clubs that you're involved in. You can include faculty and staff calendars. But as you create events, one of the things I want to point out, again, for collaboration purposes, is if I want to have a professional development session, for example, I can add guests. I can set the date, I can set the time, I can set a reminder for myself so that it will ding me on my phone if I have calendar set up there, or on my computer as well. But I can add Google Meet video conferencing, and that will automatically populate a link here. So if I add guests, I'll add myself as a guest on my personal account. There's a note here about Google Meet. I am going to meet with myself on Google Meet. So I can add that conferencing, and it's all ready to go. I'm going to save. And it's going to send an invitation to myself. Now, because my personal account is outside of the organization, I'm going to have to invite myself as an external guest. Now, whenever I decide, it's 9 o'clock, I need to sign in, I can click on this and I can either join with Google Meet or with a phone, and that same message is sent to my personal email account so that I can sign in. Just one of the many ways that you can collaborate using Google Calendar that's incredibly valuable. Going into chat, Google Chat has a lot of different potentials for your professional developments. If you want to incorporate chat, you can do this as a way for people to potentially discuss during a professional development session so they can all be in a live chat room together. This allows for collaboration and communication in some innovative ways, but it's also fairly, I think, familiar to people. They just don't think to use it necessarily. Google Meet provides a lot of the same tools, but obviously using video capacities, you can put a lot of people in a Google Meet. There are some limitations depending on how you set it up and how you're deciding to host it, but a Google Meet is wonderful for class sessions, and it provides a lot of the same capabilities as other video meeting tools. I actually prefer it to Zoom for a number of reasons. One of those is I prefer the security features to Meet and some of the options I have as a teacher. We're not going to talk about Google Plus right now, but I do want to talk about sites briefly. With sites, you can set up your own website. So I'm actually going to show you one that I've been tinkering with. When you go to sites, it takes you to the main page here. I'm going to go to New Google Sites though. And this is one that I've been playing with. Now, this Google Sites is attached, obviously, to my school email account. It's also kind of hosted on my school's domain. So my students can access this, but it's not quite as open as a normal website. I can change those settings, how I share with others, for example. Definitely, I can change those settings to make sure it's available to different groups. But that said, we'll move on here and show you some of the capabilities of Google Sites. Google Sites allows you to set up these buttons that have links in them, which I really like visually, and you can do that by going down here to Button, and you insert it, and then you can set it up with a name, links, things like that. So my syllabus, for example, if I click on it, I guess I'm going to have to display it. There we go. So if I click on my syllabus, it is linked to a document in my Google Drive, so it's there seamlessly for students. I can also link websites, like a class Amazon wish list, and it's ready to go. You can link documents, images, any kinds of links to outside sources. You can also embed a calendar here. I'm trying to think of other things. Really, any feature that a website has, Google Sites has. It's a little different than building with Weebly. It has a few more limitations in terms of your design features, but I'll also say that those limitations on design features like colors and things like that actually keep your website looking really clean and not super cluttered, so not necessarily a downside. Then going back over here, YouTube, Maps, Photos, these are all other features that certainly have value. In the classroom, I would say, I'm not going to do all of these, but in the classroom, I would say YouTube obviously has a ton of value. I've created a bunch of YouTube channels for my students, and I've done those based on, let's get into my school account. There we go. So I've created some YouTube channels. I have not created videos for my students yet, although that's honestly kind of next on the to-do list. But if I go to my channel, my playlists are here, and I've just curated content for my students based on the time periods or skills, for example, that I want them to be able to master. And then these are available for students to access whenever they want to in terms of preparation for tests. So I've obviously grabbed a whole bunch of, for world history, crash course videos, but I've also included videos from other creators. I've included some TED Ed videos. I've included some other resources here. So these video playlists are available for my students, and that's one way that I use YouTube. Other than obviously YouTube video creation, I can simply curate if I prefer to, and my students have really appreciated having these curated playlists and using them for study tools. Going down again, I would say the last two I want to talk about today are Forms and Keep. While certainly I think Google Earth has a lot of potential uses for social studies classrooms, I know that not everybody is going to be into that. So Forms and Keep will be the last two I do today. Forms allows you to do so many things. You can do assessments, exit tickets, you can collect contact information. So when you're creating a form, really think outside the box in terms of how you use it. In previous years, I've had parents complete my syllabus and fill it out with their email, their phone number, sign it, and students submit it to me. The downside with that, of course, is that sometimes I'm dealing with handwriting that I literally cannot read. And so I've actually transcribed emails incorrectly before because of that particular issue. And I've also had to transcribe them myself into a document after receiving them handwritten from parents. How much easier would it be if I simply had people fill out a form with their email, their contact information, any information they want me to have about their student, things like that. And it will automatically populate for me. I'm going to give you one quick example here. I don't think there's a whole lot in the contact form. This is a contact form that I created for my Google Slides. And so this way students can contact me, not Google Slides, Google Sites. So this is what I created so people can contact me through my Google Sites. I don't think anyone's actually used this yet because I haven't launched the site. So there are no responses is the answer to that question. But if I choose to create a spreadsheet, those responses will automatically populate for me. So create a new spreadsheet, create. And what will happen here is that anything that I've asked the form to collect will be collected here for me. And I can revisit this spreadsheet whenever I want to. I can organize, and this is in Google Sheets. I can organize their responses based on name. I can do this alphabetically if I want to. I can organize it by questions if it's yes and no, all the yeses together, all the nos together. And if I'm choosing to do this as a quiz, I can also have it populate their scores. So how many questions they got right out of the total, for example. I can have it score my quizzes for me if I do online quizzes or little exit tickets. So if I do an exit ticket and it only has 2 or 3 questions and a student has gotten all 3 questions right, then I can say, okay, it looks like that kid has the concept. I feel comfortable with that. But if they only got 1 or 2 of the questions right, I might say, okay, I need to work with that student more. And I can use that to the ability to organize their answers and arrange it by answer to more quickly target which students need more time and more attention in terms of a particular topic or concept. And to show you how to do that, it's a little difficult actually given that there's nothing here, but I can sort the sheet, and that's what I would do, is I would sort sheet A to Z, and that would allow me to see their responses. There's so many ways to use Google Sheets, but that's just one that has a lot of power to streamline your life, whether it's contacting parents and collecting test data and even collecting, for example, I've used these contact forms. I've used these to have students sign in for tutorial. So if I know I'm going to have a big tutorial where I'm expecting 30 or 40 kids to show up, a test is coming up, it's going to be a lot of kids. Taking attendance for who's attended my tutorial is difficult with that many students, particularly when they're coming from all different class periods, right? So what I do is I have a Google form set up that asks them their name, it asks them maybe their class period, asks them what tool they've used to study. I can adapt this in a number of ways, and then I create a bit.ly link and I post the bit.ly link on my whiteboard, and then students just use that link to quickly sign in, let me know where they're at, and I use that to collect attendance data. So again, Forms is super flexible and super powerful. And the last one I'm showing you today is Keep. Google Keep has replaced for me all of my checklists, all of my sticky notes. I used to have kind of up here on my desktop a running set of sticky notes to keep myself organized, but I'm actually using Google Keep instead now. Now, I've done a lot to personalize my Google Keep and make it super cute, and I've done that over here as well by creating different labels. But that said, you don't need to go into that much detail. With Google Keep, you can see I've already got a to-do list kind of running here. I'm going to show you very quickly. When you open up Google Keep for the first time, there's nothing here. It's literally just a blank section and a little thing that says take note. So let's say that I want to make a grocery list. I can do that in the title, and then down here in the body where it says take note, I'm going to create checkboxes, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. But as you can see, as I kind of opened this and it populated, there's a couple of different things you can use Google Keep for that sticky notes just don't do. Google Keep can remind you, especially if you put this app on your phone or on your Apple Watch if you have one of those. Google Keep as an app will be able to remind you on your phone if you decide that you want this item to have a reminder associated with it. Very much like Google Calendar, these all work together. The other powerful thing about Google Keep is that you can collaborate. So if you want to have a list going with somebody else, maybe someone who's in a professional development group with you, a professional learning community with you, you guys can work together on the same note. And so again, super powerful way of collaborating. You can personalize this as well with fun colors. Let's go with, I think, blue today. And then you can also personalize with an image. If you do this with an image here, this is actually what I've done here to create these cover items, is inserting an image. So that's how you do that. If you're interested, let me know if you want a tutorial on how to do that, but that is kind of very niche. And then once you're done, you can archive the note and it will get saved, obviously, but it just won't be on your main page anymore because you don't need it anymore. Or you can just delete it if you don't want it, like by clicking this. Now, a couple of notes here. You can add labels. You've actually can see down here I've added a label. So my labels include student needs, ideas, professional to-do list, and personal. Now this is obviously what I've titled these items here, but I could have a little subnote, for example. Maybe it's a personal thing, right? This grocery list is personal, so it is not going to have that cute little personal icon at the top, but it's still personal, right? So let's keep working on this. I'm going to pin it to the top now so I don't lose it. That's how these are all pinned towards the top. So looking at my grocery list, I'm going to show checkboxes. This is, I think, a really important and really powerful feature of Google Keep. All right, so I've clicked on it. I have opted to show checkboxes. So when listing items, I'm going to show you something that is really cool. So I'm first going to list vegetables. Maybe I'll do tomatoes, I can spell, and lettuce. All right. One of the neat things with these checkboxes is that you can drag them, and so you can nest them under one another. So tomatoes and lettuce are now nested under vegetables. I'm also going to do meat, and we're going to do turkey and chicken. Now I'm going to drag those as well as subgroup under meat. Now if I'm in the produce section and I've already gotten my tomatoes, I've already gotten my lettuce, I can either individually mark them off, and then vegetables just stays up here as a larger category, or if after I'm done with the produce section, I look and I go, actually I've gotten all my vegetables. Instead of checking them off individually, I can just check off vegetables and all of them kind of go down to completed items. And the other nice thing is, if I look back and realize, ooh, no, I actually didn't get everything I needed, I can manually uncheck and it just repopulates for me. If this kind of a grocery list type thing, if there are items that you get on a regular basis, creating a master grocery list like this where you populate and you depopulate and you say, oh no, I don't need this anymore. But the next week, if I just leave this grocery list as it is, but I still need tomatoes and lettuce the next week, I can just, put them back up on the list, right? And this is a document that I can come back to over and over again without having to recreate it each week. And the same thing I would imagine could be done in a classroom. If there are tasks that you know have to happen each week, then you can simply have a running list that gets depopulated and repopulated each week as you revisit it. So we'll close that out. And that is it for my Google Waffle tutorial. I'm going to do another one specifically for slides in just a little bit here, but let me know if there are other things that you want to explore, or if there's something that I mentioned today in passing regarding one of these tools that you would like more information on. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I value your time, so I'm going to end the recording here.